out here in the data center, and we are going to talk about how F5, one of our vendors, is solving problems for our partners and customers. And to lead that conversation, we're talking with Rodney, one of our F5 subject matter experts. Welcome, Rodney.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Good to see you.
So one of the things that we hear a lot about is we hear about multi-cloud and hybrid cloud and all of these changes in technology. And historically, when I think about F5, I think about load balancing and web application firewall. And I know they've had a lot of acquisitions. They've brought in a lot of new functionality. But I want to know what they've got now to really help with kind of the problem that we're seeing from partners who are working with customers that are either moving from traditional data center to cloud, or maybe have a footprint in cloud already and now looking at expanding into multi-cloud and those kind of things. It really kind of changes the security framework when we start talking about being on these different platforms. Introduces a lot of new challenges.
It does. It does. And for anybody that knows F5, they've been around for quite some time. They've always held a very important and strategic role in the data center. And through acquisition and product development over the last 20 years, they've always maintained sort of a leading edge into what's important at the time. And you're 100% right. What we're seeing today is cloud adoption has been on the rise for several years, but dramatically accelerated over the last, say, 2 or 3. And as part of that, I think what you're seeing is, if you just look at the acquisition strategy of F5, not even talking about product development and how that product's matured, but if you just look at the companies that they've been acquiring, you look at NGINX, which is a containerized, web service and API gateway, and what they're doing around to address sort of that microservices containerized play. And then in 2020, they purchased Shape for anti-fraud, credential stuffing protection, which introduces some machine learning and AI techniques to enhance security. To probably more importantly for this conversation, their Volterra acquisition of last year, where, as you stated, we do have, because of the portability of applications today, we do have customers that are taking that multi-cloud approach. They're not putting all of their eggs in one basket. As a matter of fact, if you look at most of the industry reports, they'll tell you that for customers that are adopting cloud technologies, 90% of them are moving towards a multi-cloud approach, and 80% are moving towards a hybrid cloud approach, which would include private clouds and traditional data center. So as we've seen things get abstracted over the years, I think that what we're seeing is now it's time to start abstracting these cloud environments so that I don't have people that need to be experts for all the cloud native tools inside of Amazon or the cloud native tools inside of Google or Azure. I can sort of stitch all of these things together, put them under a single point of control, and be able to apply security policy and configurations consistently to my application, regardless of where it lives, as well as leverage a 20 plus pop global backbone that F5 has in their distributed cloud. So that Volterra acquisition of last year became the F5 distributed cloud console that we see today. And so I think to sort of address sort of the points that you made, that seems like it's probably the best way to go with this conversation.
Yeah, so one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is when we talk about security in cloud environments, it's a shared responsibility model. The platform provider is responsible for the security of the platform, but you as the person putting services there is responsible for the security of those services. And to your point, how you do it in Azure is different on how you do it on Amazon. And I know how challenging it is to get a cloud platform developer for one platform, trying to get people for multiple platforms, and then getting them to coordinate to do things consistently. I got to imagine it'd be quite a challenge.
Oh yeah, 100%. And you're right. It takes a village, right? So there is a shared responsibility model, but most of the things that I've read in terms of priorities for executive management and for IT operations is that they're more concerned, honestly, with performance and availability over security. Security is almost an afterthought, and a lot of that is because it's hard to do it properly in an efficient way, right? So we need to make that as frictionless as possible, and using something like F5 distributed cloud, where I can create one policy instead of having to manage security policy across all these different cloud platforms, is 100% what the goal is behind that approach.
Yeah, I mean, the promise of DevOps is build once, run anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about it that we need to be thinking about that as DevSecOps. That security is part of that development cycle. And what you're telling me is with F5's distributed cloud platform, I actually get that. So if I build those security policies as part of that application deployment through F5 distributed cloud, I know that let's be honest, when I take that same code from Azure and run on AWS, it may not actually run on AWS. It may have to make some tweaks, but I still know it's going to be secure.
Yeah, yep, 100%. That's the idea, to limit this down to fewer policies and less skew when we're talking about where my application lives. The idea is that we're abstracting these cloud environments, so I don't really care where they exist. At that point, I can start moving things around based on costing models in these different environments. I can move things around based on the location of the clients that are accessing these applications, regardless of the stack. I've got one security policy that I can push out to my application, and I know it's protected regardless of where it lives.
Now, it sounds like a great way to solve the problem that we were talking about in terms of cloud and multi-cloud and hybrid cloud adoption. Anything else that you want us to take away for our partners?
I think a good takeaway is that much like most of our cloud technologies out there, our public cloud providers, there is a free tier aspect to this. So it's a very simple thing to go and get a free account, go into the F5 distributed cloud console, play around with things, configure yourself a load balancer, connect some sites together to get sort of a feel of what's going on, as well as go to simulator.f5.com, where you can actually see a laundry list of different use cases to be able to see what the value is behind this technology. So there's a bunch of different, and even that free tier on the F5 distributed cloud comes with support, and you can schedule a walkthrough. So if you want to see this thing sort of from a deeper dive perspective, it's a pretty simple thing to do.
Sounds like a great option to get up speed on what sounds like a great product.